Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another video with On Point Politics, your number one stop for all things polling and election analysis that isn't beholden to any mainstream media source. Hit the like button and subscribe if you want more content just like this. And today we are being joined by none other than the People's Pundit. Go ahead and introduce yourself, Rich.
Hey, how you doing? Thanks for having me. It's good to be here. Yep, Rich Barris, the People's Pundit, host of Inside the Numbers, director of Big Data Poll, and yada yada yada. The man of titles, I guess, but just you can call me Rich. I'm good with that, brother.
All right. So, first thing, right now we've been going into the cycle. Biden was in the race, and now he's gone. He just disappeared because it was totally democratic. And now we got this Canadian lady that wasn't even raised here, basically, who is now trying to posture as the African American savior for the 2024 presidential election. So, what do you think is the state of the race right now? If you had to give me like a general guide of where the popular vote might be, or at least where the swing states are, we're gonna go ahead and start with that. So where do you think that is right now?
So I would explain the race like this: Donald Trump led Joe Biden for a year and a half, right? And he has always led on the most important issues that people will be voting on when you ask who they trust to handle these issues. And it's not like we just started polling Kamala yesterday, folks. I mean, we had always added her as an alternative, and he always crushed her, often by bigger margins than he was even beating Biden, even in Biden's worst time. Then they pulled the switcheroo and the media fluffed her up. I mean, that's the only way to put this. And there was a period when people who think Trump did a good job, but would not be thrilled that if he was president again, they'd like something new. Um, Gave her an opportunity to meet the presidential bar, right? Which is a term we use. Like, can you do this job? Can I trust you to do it? Why are you going to be different than Joe Biden? Was one of the major questions she needed to ask. And then, are you too liberal? Was another one because everyone had the impression she was too liberal. And by everyone, I mean a majority. She had a grace period where voters said, tell me, give me the answer I want to hear. And during that period, I would say the race tightened. Maybe she edged ahead nationally a little bit.
So
I think that's fair. A lot of this is difficult to know because of the response bias the media created during a certain period where the polling was just very difficult. A lot of Democrats wanted to talk more. It wasn't that public opinion changed that much. It's
no,
who you're talking to that changes that much. And then, that's it. I mean, the air began to deflate and she didn't meet the bar. So now she's deflating and on the way down. And Trump it has not hit his peak yet in our polling. It suggests his ceiling, he did not hit it yet. So 3 weeks out from, where we are basically right now, it's Trump's momentum. And that there's a possibility this guy can win the popular vote. I mean, not a tiny possibility,
there's
a
a
good possibility, which is something someone like me and others like who share the same ideas really did not believe was going to be possible for a Republican candidate for a very long time because of demographic trends. But the demographics are shifting. He's set to do the best among non-whites since Richard Nixon in 1960. That's where we're headed. So yeah, it's Trump's momentum in the states and nationally. So Harris is running out of time to stop that momentum.
no, yeah, and you had a lot of voters who were Kamala curious. This is something Mark Halperin's actually
We're
talked about.
commonly curious would agree. Yeah,
Kamala curious, and you had a lot of voters that were kind of normie, that are sort of either middle class or a little bit higher up on the scale, that
yeah,
were like, like I know Donald Trump. I don't really know Kamala Harris. There's a lot of people
that's
who
right.
don't know who she is. And so when you have these people that are like, man, just give me an answer a damn question without a teleprompter for once. And she can't do it. And that really messed her up. You know what's funny? I always say this. If she would have gone out there and been like, yeah, Biden messed up. We messed up on
Yeah,
everything.
she'd win.
She'd
She'd
actually be
win.
leading by 3 or 4 points nationally. She'd actually
Yeah,
be up.
yeah,
Funny enough, if she was actually honest, she'd actually be leading. So that's the funny thing. She actually could have really saved herself. And I do believe that she was ahead by 3, maybe 2 nationally, which was a huge change from Trump beating Biden by 5 to 6 in the popular
yeah.
vote. With me and Gold Crown were the only ones that were saying that. And everyone was like, he's going to not win. He won't win Minnesota. He won't win New Mexico, Virginia, New Hampshire. There's no way. And then they kick him out of the race. It's like, really? So if the election was close, were they really going to kick him out? Like, let's be real here.
Yeah,
So,
Yeah. Oh, I was just gonna say their own internal polling, the weekend that they finally got booted him, was ugly. Minnesota was a, less than 1 point, and he was falling rapidly. Their own polling had him getting crushed, crushed.
Rich, it was their own internal polling was 2 states off from my map. It was just Minnesota and Maine, and they were both
Maine,
tilt blue, like,
probably.
a tiny bit, and they would have had my map in the internal polling.
But
What?
Maine was right there. I mean,
Yeah,
Maine was a tiny, tiny margin. And by the way, I still think that if this thing does break very heavily for Donald
oh,
Trump in
yeah,
the end here, I do think Maine is on the table,
I
and so
actually
is
think I'm
Minnesota.
over I actually think I'm overestimating Harris in New Hampshire and Maine right now because my model for 2020, let me pull it up just so we can show it on the show so people see it because I know your audience will probably see this too. So this is my 2024 model, which literally all it is there's the polling average, which I adjust party ID by. And when I do this for 2020 in all the swing states, including Texas, Florida, all the regular swing states, Minnesota, I get all the states correct, all of them within like 2 points when I weigh them by party. The demographic model, I get the most accurate pollsters from the previous cycle's crosstabs and I plug them into like a swingometer model and it gives me those results. And then now what I do is I track the trend from 2000 to 2024 and I apply my national popular vote aggregate to that. So when you average out those three,
Yeah.
it gives me state margins. So nothing like Nate Silver having, oh, this economic indicator is actually going to shift the model by 0.1%. You don't need any of that.
He's being subjective. That's the problem with modeling these days. We're blending the lines between subjective and objective variables,
Right.
and I mean, this cannot continue because people. We need a win. This industry needs a win. It doesn't matter who wins or loses. The industry needs to be right,
Yeah.
and if they're not, again, I
It's
don't
gonna
know
be
what the people are
a
going to do with us. I
it's
really
gonna
don't.
be a problem. I hope I'm correct because I might be the saving grace of all this, to be honest with you. Look at my 2020 map. Look, I did the same thing for 2020, and I get all the states
This is
correct.
neat. I'm looking at it right now. I mean, I don't have time to digest it, of course, because 'cause we're just on the show real quick, but I'm looking at it and I mean, it's neat. I see what you're doing.
Every
Yeah,
single one. The average error is 0.8 between all the states. Some of the deeper red or blue states, the margin of error is a little bigger. But look at Pennsylvania, it's 0.9 Biden. It ended up being 1.2 Biden.
1.2. Yeah,
Wisconsin's right on the edge. Virginia's right there. Texas, half a point redder. Nevada's right there. Like, I get all the state calls correct. So, and I'm doing the exact same thing right now. So, it's
yeah.
for everybody that's saying that, oh, you're grifting or this and that and whatever, I'm really trying my best to put something together. And the
You
way I
should
grade, the way I grade the pollsters is also very interesting. I think it's very unique. A lot of people don't actually do this. What I do is I grade everybody based on their margin from 2020, how accurate it was, their sample size right now, including how many undecideds they have in their polling,
yeah,
because the higher undecideds they have, the less of a score they get. And then you get a little bit of a boost for the likely voter model. And all the polls are aggregated here and then everybody's calculated in here and it gives me the lead. So this is what my aggregates looked like since August. He's been
yeah.
the entire time. He's
That's
been up.
interesting. That's interesting. That kinda reminds me of 2 years, 2016 and 2012, where, I've been a big proponent of telling people about the problems that we have with polling because that's a what you just showed was a very consistent trend for both candidates, a very consistent trend line, very consistent margin. And honestly, if you went back to 2012, you would see public polls gyrating all over the place. But in truth, and it was called experimental back then, but in truth, if you did what is now known as panel polling and opt-in polling, where you just have larger sample sizes that you believe or you hope are representative of the overall voting public, you'll find that the truth is the numbers don't move that much at all. Right. And of course, you have certain people who are truly undecided, but that number is not as big
Yeah.
as some people would hope. And you can see that we just put out a new poll in Michigan. You could see that the truth is when you press people, they give you an answer. And very few people really don't know who they're going to vote for. Right. That number of truly persuadable gets
And
seemingly smaller and smaller every year.
yep.
It really does.
And that's very bad for Harris because a lot of those persuadables,
Yeah, it
I
is.
mean, Trump just he almost got
It
killed
is.
twice. Like, everyone's gonna go to the polling
Maybe
booth.
3 times now, we don't know yet,
Yeah,
but
3. Yeah.
it may be
So it's
3.
so it's like when they go to the booth, they're gonna think, "Oh, this guy who was saying cats and the dogs, like, that was funny, and, oh, man, he got shot and he stood up and he raised his fist." Like, it sounds facetious, but, like, with really, like, pure undecideds that really don't give a damn, those little things really make a difference, and a lot of them are in the swing states.
Yeah.
So and right
Yeah, they
now,
are because
I think
they're
yeah,
hit with the material more. You know,
yeah,
it's just the
yeah,
truth of it. You know, it's the nature of modern campaigning. They're
yeah,
hit with everybody's material more. So, you know, they're certainly the ones who are there are larger numbers of them thinking about it because they're seeing both campaign and media stuff that they're trying to throw at them, of course, to persuade them. But it is about images. We create images in our minds when we formulate belief systems, and it is about imagery, and Trump is no doubt winning. And that's why memes, by the way, are effective. Of course,
yes,
they
they
are
are.
effective.
They are.
But that's, I mean, it almost was created to serve that inherent process that goes in the human mind. And yeah, Trump is winning this one, going away. You see Harris trying to pivot today. She's
Yeah,
Her campaign has been struggling to find an image, that image that people, when they say Kamala Harris, what they could latch on to. Trump, he found it in 16. Even normies, when you would talk about, you know, the Trump's campaign or what he was doing, the media wanted you to think about other things. But the people who you know, who really are going to decide those elections, they didn't. They thought, give me 2 words or a word what you think about when you think about Donald Trump. Trade, immigration, the forgotten man, the forgotten woman, right? So he had an image, and it was like, you know, branded in people's brains. Kamala again today is now switching to another image, which is the Trump is crazy and he can't be trusted with the White House image. I got to tell you, I don't see this working. People already know everything they need to know about Donald Trump. Nothing you tell them is going to be new. Last week, by the way, it was bouncing back and forth between we need to move on and healthcare. And it was like, move on from what? The last 4 years. That's why it's been so difficult for her. She has repeatedly made that mistake by saying we need to turn the page on the last 4 years. Well, Kamala, you are in charge in the last 4 years. Her message is not good. And
and this
that's because this is an experiment they're running, right? Nobody's ever done this before. She didn't get a single vote, folks. Biden is the legitimate Democratic nominee. They usurped a sitting president and the legitimate Democratic nominee for an experiment. And we're going to see. I'm starting to feel like, I'll tell you, Lester, I'm starting to feel like my job is just to gauge public opinion and see whether or not the, how can I even put it? I mean, the word most people would know is propaganda, but the propaganda campaigns, the branding campaigns that the corporate media wages on the public, is that does it are they durable enough you know, to last until the election? That is what this is about.
yeah,
And right now, and the NBC News poll, we're not the only ones. You can see it in the NBC News poll. Her image is now starting to return to where it was before this
yeah,
began, which is catastrophic.
all her favorables are going back down. I have a
Yeah,
friend, Gold Crown Politics, that's seeing the same thing that I'm seeing, and he has another type of model that
yeah,
looks at favorabilities and things like that and polling errors. It's not looking good for her because her favorability is starting to go down again.
yeah. We have him 46% favorable in Michigan and
That
48. Yeah,
that's
so
his favorability rating, not his job approval.
no, his job approval now is majority positive, and it is everywhere. So when you say, thinking
Oh,
back to Donald Trump's time
wow.
as president, do you approve or disapprove of how he handled the job as president, right? And he's majority approve.
I
She
hate
was doing well, but now she's
hate
greater.
I hate that pollsters are not asking that question more because that's the
Tells
actual
you a lot.
indicator for him. Because if you look at the national vote, I know we got to finish up here, but the national vote for a sitting incumbent or even any candidate, even looking at the spread of their favorables and
Yeah,
then factoring the third parties, you can actually predict the popular vote pretty easily. And the problem is, yes, his favorable is like 46, 47, but he always outperforms his favorable on average like 4 or 5 points. So
that's
if
right.
he's at
Yeah.
47, 48, he's going to be at 50, 51. Like it's just, and when you go back and you look at that, it always adds up every time. And even the Gallup polling that they did, every indicator
This
favors the Republican now.
again, why what you just said is like very unique to Trump, and why
Yes,
again her new messaging tactic is just it's stupid. Because you're trying to make more people dislike a guy who has this unique ability to get people who dislike him personally to vote for him because they believe he does the job well. So it's very hard to go down that road. I think you hit it before when we were talking before. Had
mm,
she just simply said, I'm sorry for the country was misled about Joe Biden's state of mind. I'm sorry about these decisions we made. If you truly do now support fracking, Joe, we should have never have removed have shut down the Keystone XL pipeline. The idea to destroy Detroit's automotive industry forever is not a good idea with electric cars. We'll get there when the time comes, but we're not going to have government force us into a new era at the expense of your job. This is who I really am. I ran for president in 2020 and you didn't get to know me well enough, but now here I am and here's what I'm about. And if she would have done that, she'd
it
be
would be
winning
close.
right now.
It'd be
Right.
close.
She'd be yeah, she got even think she would be winning because you can't tell people who dislike Trump why to dislike him more and why and think that's going to earn their vote. They already dislike him, but they're going to vote for him because they feel he is competent and he did the job well. And
That's
she's just going down the same path. It's unbelievable the bubble Democrats are in. They
yeah.
cannot pop this
They're
bubble.
stuck. They're stuck in 22. They think Trump has a ceiling. All these Democrat
Yeah.
experts, oh, he's actually got a ceiling of 47% in the popular vote. That's not true, but he's been around 8 years, 9 years now. He's been around for almost a decade. So that makes him really a pseudo incumbent, to be honest. It really does.
He's more
So,
popular now than he ever was.
yeah,
I don't
he
think they realize that.
and it's funny too because he's polling higher than he was against Biden. Like
Yes.
he's doing better. Biden was just really down. He was going to get like 38, 39. Kennedy was probably going to get double digits in the popular vote. No one wants to talk about that. Even Alan Lichtman with his little keys. Oh, RFK wasn't polling at 10%. Well, he probably was going to get like 15. I did the same thing before you go. I did the same thing from June 21st to July 21st, right before he left. And when I did the aggregates and everything, Trump's at 38, Biden's at 33, and Kenny's getting like 17% of the popular vote. Like that, I don't know if that would have been correct, but if that was true, he could have picked off like Maine, maybe New Hampshire. Like things could have been very wacky. Like we could have been headed for a very like 1992 election on steroids.
It's hard as a third party to get, to get momentum and keep momentum. But I'll tell you, you're looking at the not only Michigan, but in Pennsylvania, but specifically Michigan, of course, he's still on the ballot. In Pennsylvania, it's different. If Thursday, we're looking at a president-elect Donald Trump again, he's going to be the 47th president. I'm telling you that Kennedy's decision not only to drop out and endorse him, but
It
to
was a
actively campaign for him
big
is
deal.
huge.
Such a big deal.
Yes, it's a big deal because I never would have thought, for those who don't know and haven't seen the poll, we got him between 1 and 3 rounded. If you round to the nearest whole number, it's actually 3.5. But if you look at the number of Kennedy voters that decided, okay, I'm going to vote for Donald Trump, it almost it almost accounts for his entire margin. And I'm
Watch.
not saying he couldn't do it without it. I'm just saying that it gives him that kind of room. I never thought I would have Donald Trump anywhere near 3 points in a state like Michigan. It just we've never had it before. So, well, how could that be? I really do think that Kennedy will play, has already played a really key role in all of this. I really have.
Watch this before you go. Look at this. He was going down. Harris was catching up. It was getting closer. And look at Kennedy. When Kennedy
Drops
started going
out.
down, look at Trump.
Yeah.
Harris got some, but he got more. And look
Yeah.
at that. Look at this. There was a few. at the end here, the last
Yeah, I
few
can see it.
dropped
It's
off
very
and
clear.
are undecided now. They're now undecided, and
Yeah.
they're kind of still there. I mean, Trump's getting some of them. Harris got some of them, but they're still there. They're
Yeah.
still there. That is it for this episode with the People's Pundit and On Point Politics. If you guys did enjoy this video, make sure to hit the like button and to subscribe if you want more content just like this. And I will see you guys in the next video.